NFL is propping up the refs and giving the Lions the tag of deception in saying that they tried to trick the NFL and the refs by doing what they did versus the Cowboys on that final 2-point play. I wasn't going to do any more videos about this. I'm trying to just move on from it. And the more I read today and the more that keeps coming out, it's almost laughable. There are some media professionals that want to talk about it respectfully. They want to lay it all out on the line and have a conversation about it. But more importantly, they don't want to see these types of things happen any longer. It's been far too long that the Detroit Lions are the beneficiary of these bad calls. And what else are we to think other than it's clearly fixing? Now, let's just say that Brad Allen completely screwed up and he didn't do it on purpose, right? We can give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Let's just play that rule, right? We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Well, why didn't he just own up to it? And furthermore, why didn't he correct the mistake? There's a few things that I want to discuss today, and it starts with how this 2-point play, once it's called, that the Lions didn't have any other recourse. Number one, they did not have any more timeouts. The only way to stop this play from happening is to correct the ref. They don't have a timeout. They can't stop the ref. They can't correct the ref. Now, I know I've been in games at Ford Field where I've heard refs come in and change the call. Correction, so-and-so. I've heard that. You've heard it while you're watching games sitting at home. But someone had to tell the ref that there was a mistake. When the guys are in the huddle, they aren't listening to the loudspeakers. They really can't hear anything. Jared Goff has got Ben Johnson in his ear, first of all, so he can't hear anything. And then the guys are listening intently to what play is being called by Jared Goff. And while that's happening, the loudspeaker says what player was eligible. Lions did their job. Number one, Taylor Decker reported. We've seen him walk over to report. Now, why was there 3 guys reporting? It's because Dan Skipper was reporting all game long, so they wanted to make sure that the refs understood what they were told in pregame was about to happen, that Dan Skipper was not eligible. Penei Sewell would be lined up on the end, and he would not be eligible, that Taylor Decker would be eligible. And here's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to start off with the play itself, okay? Now, you can see my notes on the bottom here. And I doubt you can see my cursor, but if you can, great. We'll start on the bottom of the screen. Okay, Taylor Decker is lined up at left tackle. He is the last guy on the line, so he is an eligible receiver, as he reported by NFL rule. Now, what's more important is NFL formation rules. I heard today that the Cowboys have such a great defense. They're so well trained that they do everything perfect. Well, great. Then you should have noticed that by this formation that Taylor Decker was the only eligible lineman. If you are so good at what you do, then you should have been able to point this out. And I don't want to hear any excuses that you didn't cover Taylor Decker as good as you would have, because if you are the one that's calling the plays, you should have noticed this. It's your job to read the offensive formation. Whether that's the middle linebacker or whoever's making the call here, it is your job to recognize who's eligible and who's ineligible. So if I know this stuff, how come you don't know this stuff? I don't even play the damn game. So anyway, Reynolds is off the ball. He's off the line of scrimmage. He does not cover up Decker, making Decker eligible again by NFL formation rules. Let's move to the other side. Dan Skipper is lined up at the right tackle, but he's covered up by Sewell, who is now playing tight end. That makes Skipper ineligible by, again, NFL formation rules. Next to Sewell is Laporta. Notice how Laporta is off the ball. He's off the line of scrimmage. The player to his right is Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is on the line of scrimmage, covering up Penei Sewell, which makes Penei Sewell ineligible. Furthermore, Sewell, again, like I said, he's playing tight end. He's covered up by he's covered up by Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is not eligible by NFL formation rules. St. Brown is on the line of scrimmage to cover up Sewell. So it doesn't get any more clear than that, right? I mean, would we agree that if you are a professional in the NFL, it is your job to recognize the formation of the offense or defense? It is your job to put your guys in the right formation, to stop whatever the Lions are about to do. Now, the next part that really pisses me off, saying that the Lions are involved in gamemanship and deception to try to trick the referee. Well, first and foremost, isn't this game all about trickery and deception and gamesmanship? That's how you win the game. What is a fake punt? What is a fake field goal? What is a fake 2-point? I mean, what are all these fake plays for then? What's the trickery for? It's there for a reason. That's what the NFL is all about. Is being better than your opponent. And just because the Lions are better than the Cowboys couldn't take it. The NFL couldn't take it. All of the quote unquote Cowboys legends in the building couldn't take it, couldn't handle it. That the Lions are better than the Cowboys. So to say that the Lions, and I'm going to pull something else in here. I'm going to read something here. I think this is by John Macaroon. So credit to him if that's who this is from. I think it's from him. But there was a couple of things said in here. It says, despite former NFL coaches and pundits expressing the Detroit Lions were on the wrong end of the one of the most egregious calls in league history, there are reportedly no current plans to change how linemen report as eligible. Well, I bet you some sort of a new league rule pops up in the offseason, and I would say that you just eliminate it. Completely eliminate reporting as eligible, and you make the defense figure out what you're doing by understanding the formation. I think that that's a much better way to go about this. Mano a mano. Are you smarter than me? No one should have to report. Go in and run your damn play. And as long as you're in a legal formation, the refs should be smart enough to know what that is. Go up, run the play, win the game. Forget all this human error stuff. Because then it can be a reviewable play. Make it reviewable. If someone throws a flag for illegal formation, make that reviewable. That's how you change things. Take human error out of it. So according to Pro Football Talk and per a source with knowledge of the situation, the NFL does not plan to change the procedure for players reporting as eligible. I think that's a mistake. The league views the situation as an effort by the Lions to engage in deception and gamesmanship that backfired. Okay. Now, let's just say that deception and gamesmanship is meant in a good way, because I can only imagine that's what it means, right? Because that's what this game's all about. You're trying to be better than the other side by running plays that have trickery involved, that have gamesmanship involved. That's what it's all about. So next up, I'm going to bring in Dean Blandino, and I want to hear what he had to say. He says some good things and some bad things. He's kind of all over the place, but let's listen to what he has to say about it. Remember, he was part of the whole Cowboys debacle before.
Let's go through the play and kind of narrate it and tell us what happened and maybe what the flag was.
Sure. So what the officials have, you've got Taylor Decker on the end of the line. That's an eligible position. They throw him a pass. He has to report. Penei Sewell was on the other end of the line. He also has to report. If neither of them report, then you've got an illegal formation. Decker goes downfield. That's ineligible downfield. And then if he catches the pass, that's illegal touching. So they had 70 reporting, not 58 and 68. And that was the issue.
Can we show the reporting? So here it is. This is Jared Goff. He points to 68 Decker and says, go over there. Yep. But 70 comes running on, and 70 is the one who is called for the eligible receiver on this play. But you're saying that most likely maybe it wasn't.
Well, and I think Charles hit the nail on the head, too. He's a little rough on the refs, but he went 70 is coming out as if he's going to report. Then Brad Allen is assuming, okay, 70, you're reporting. He's got 58 and 68 in front of him. Look, responsibility, the players have to, right? Normally that's a swipe. I'm eligible. So there's some responsibility on the players, but there's also responsibility on the referee. It's a 2-point try for the game. There's no reason to rush. Slow it down.
Just because Dan Skipper runs onto the field doesn't mean that the ref should assume that he's the one reporting when Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker are in his face talking to him, right? Explaining to him again that we went over this in pregame. Skipper is no longer ineligible. Penei Sewell's going to line up at tight end, but he's going to be covered up by Amon-Ra St. Brown. Taylor Decker, I'm going to be at the left tackle position, and I will not be covered up by Josh Reynolds, and I will be an eligible receiver. The Lions went above and beyond, explained it to the ref before the game, explained it to the ref before the play. Everybody went to the ref to report as eligible or ineligible. And the ref just either screwed it up intentionally. I can only imagine. So let's go down conspiracy road number one. Dan Campbell explains all of this to Brad Allen prior to the game. And then let's say Brad Allen just goes to the rest of the refs that are in on, whatever, and says, hey, there's going to be a trick play at some point. And when it comes out, let's screw the Lions. Let's figure out a way to screw the Lions, which means all Brad Allen had to do was call the wrong number. That's all he had to do, because he knew at that point there's nothing the Lions can do. And knowing that the Lions didn't have a timeout, pretty easy to do, isn't it? So again, conspiracy road number one tells me that this could have had some sort of pre-plan from the beginning by the refs that were involved. Maybe it was just Brad Allen. And he thought it all out. Hey, if the Lions don't have a timeout, I'm just going to call the wrong number because they can't stop it. They can't fix it. And I guarantee you nobody heard that being called over the loudspeaker. Why? Dan Campbell has headphones on. Ben Johnson has headphones on. Jared Goff has Ben Johnson in his ear. Nobody is going to hear that matters. All of the coaches have headphones on. So who's going to hear it? Now, the only thing that a team can do moving forward is ensuring that somebody's paying attention to this. That's it. That someone's paying attention to it. The only other option that I would say that the teams could do is maybe they need to go hand the ref a card. Right? Soccer has, cards. So why not have your number and name written on a card? And when you're going to go in and report as eligible, you go onto the field, hand the ref your card, and you're eligible. We'll report in. And the first part of this is, and these questions are to Brad Allen after the game. Question number one, why was there a penalty called on the 2-point conversion for an illegal touch? Allen's response is, so we had a situation where if you were going to have an ineligible number occupy an eligible position, you have to report that to the referee. Okay. If we had a situation, where if you were going to have an ineligible number occupy an eligible position, you have to report that to the referee. All right. So normally Taylor Decker, Dan Skipper, Penei Sewell, they are not eligible. They are on the offensive line. So the minute they become a receiver and eligible, they have to report that. I think that's what he's trying to say there. So on this particular play, he says, number 70, Dan Skipper, who had reported during the game a couple of times, reported to me as eligible. That's BS. And everybody knows that's BS. Dan Skipper said he never said a word to the ref. And you can watch him running onto the field. His hands never went like this. They never went down his chest. They were down at his side. So that's BS. Then he lined up at the tackle position. So actually, he didn't have to report at all. At least he's recognizing there that he lined up at the tackle position. So he's not eligible. So if you knew that he lined up at the tackle position and then you called 70 as eligible, you should have known right then and there that you screwed up. And he should have stopped the play, is what he should have done, but he didn't. Then he says, so actually he didn't have to report at all. Number 68, Taylor Decker, who ended up going downfield and touching the pass, did not report. Therefore, he is an ineligible touching a pass that goes beyond the line, which makes it a foul. So the issue is number 70 did report, number 68 did not. BS, we've seen it on the field where 68 and 58 were talking to Brad Allen. 70 was 15 yards away from that huddle with the ref, and the ref starts running away as soon as Dan Skipper gets up there. But like Dean Blandino said, why are you rushing this? This is the potential last play of the game for the Detroit Lions on offense, and you're going to rush the situation? Not good. Let's go to slide number 2 here. Pool report. Still, question number 2. There was a player that went out to you just before the play. It was Decker, and he was talking to you. 2 linemen talking to you, and then you went to the Cowboys defensive line to speak to them. What was that conversation about? Brad Allen responds and says, the conversation is where number 70 reports to me. Really? Where? So a player can't go in and make another player eligible. Decker and Sewell can't go up to the ref and say 70 is eligible. You can't do that. 70 has to go tell Brad Allen that he's eligible. So you're telling me, from what I'm gathering of that first answer, is the conversation between Decker and Sewell and the ref was about Dan Skipper? Yeah, I don't think so, buddy. And then he goes on to say, so they will be aware of who has reported, and then I return to my position. That was the conversation with the defensive line. Nobody was asking you about your conversation really with the defensive line. We want to know what the conversation was between you, Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, because Dan Skipper was nowhere in that conversation. So again, he's hiding. He's hiding the truth. Last question. We noticed there were 2 flags thrown on the same play. Was there another penalty called on the play as well? Brad Allen answers yes, because number 70 reported as eligible, and he was covered up at tackle on the line of scrimmage. That makes it an illegal formation. BS, because you don't even have to really report, and the formation was correct. Brad Allen just said it a minute ago, where he says that the conversation is where number 70 reports to me, and I then go to the defensive team and I say to them, number 70 is reported as an eligible receiver. So they are aware of who has reported, and then I return to my position. But before that, he states, so actually, he didn't have to report at all. Why? Because number 70, Dan Skipper, who had reported, allegedly, during the game a couple of times, reported to me as eligible. Then he lined up at the tackle position. So actually, he didn't have to report at all. Brad Allen is tripping up over his own statements. He can't keep his story straight, and that's what liars do. So let me go back and read that again. The question, we noticed there were 2 flags thrown on the same play. Was there another penalty called on that play as well? Brad Allen's answer, yes, because number 70 reported as eligible, and he was covered up at tackle on the line of scrimmage. That makes it an illegal formation. So number 70 is in an illegal position because he is covered up by the rule, and number 68 catches the pass, which is also illegal. But if you go back to what he just said, that on this particular play, number 70, Dan Skipper, who had reported during the game a couple of times, reported to me as eligible. We know that's not true. Then he lined up at right tackle. So actually, he didn't have to report at all. So what is it, Brad Allen? He did have to report, or he didn't have to report? He was lined up in the correct formation because you just admitted that he was covered up. And if he was covered up and Taylor Decker wasn't, how is that an illegal formation? I think we already know there is no illegal formation here. Kurt Warner came out and said in the beginning that it was an illegal formation and then later corrected himself. 20 other coaches and players at least have come out and said that there was no illegal formation. By definition of the NFL rule book, there's no illegal formation. The issue here is Brad Allen decided to call number 70 and the Lions couldn't do anything about it. And the other issue is if the NFL is really going to try to say that the Lions are trying to be deceptive beyond the NFL rules, that's also wrong and very egregious as a statement against the Lions. The Lions did everything correct. Everything was done right. So lastly, I'm going to go back to this and this other guy. I don't even know who this dude is. Who is this dude? I don't know who he is. Ross Tucker podcast says the Lions sent 3 linemen over to Brad Allen to try to trick and confuse the Cowboys, and they confused the refs. I mean, that's a decent statement, right? I mean, we're trying to use trickery, which is legal. There's nothing against it. If there was, there would be no fake plays allowed. And yes, of course you want to confuse the Cowboys, and they did. They're smarter than the Cowboys. And they confused the refs? Nope. I think that the refs decided to do what they wanted to do. And I hope all of the audio comes out. I hope someone files some sort of a FOIA act and see if we can get it. I don't know if it's possible. So if they only sent Taylor Decker over to report, none of this would have happened. Well, no, because they had to go in and say, who's eligible, who's ineligible, right? They really didn't per NFL rule, but they thought that would be beneficial to make sure everybody was clear. Now, at the end of the day, the formation is what spoke to all of this being done correctly. But I want to listen to what this dude has to say anyway.
I totally understand the frustration of Lions players, fans, and coaches, especially if Dan Campbell felt like he went over with the officials in pregame in detail what they were going to do on that 2-point play. However, and this is important because I was a guy that at times had to report as eligible, the Lions sent 3 linemen over to Brad Allen in an attempt to basically trick and confuse the Cowboys as to who was eligible and who wasn't. And in the process, they tricked Brad Allen. There's 100,000 people. It's loud. There's 3 guys coming over to him. It's unfortunate, but if the Lions had just sent Taylor Decker over to Brad Allen and he reported as eligible, none of this would have happened. They sent 3 guys to try to fool the Cowboys, and they kind of fooled Brad Allen, and it cost them.
They're, teams, because that's what this game's all about. The evolution of the game has been going on for 100 years or more now, and it's getting better every single season. Teams are getting smarter, players are getting bigger and faster and stronger. The evolution of the game just happens. It's what it's all about. I mean, evolution in itself is just what happens, right? I mean, we all evolve. From the day you're born to the day you die, you go through many different evolutions in life. The game of football is no different. It's constantly evolving. So my only plea to the NFL is this: change the eligibility rule. Again, another rule that's going to affect the Detroit Lions, because this stuff cannot happen. And or the Lions, they should have had an opportunity to get this corrected. So I think that there needs to be an emergency timeout, an emergency flag that you get one a game, almost like a challenge flag. Like if you haven't used all of your challenges, that you have an emergency challenge, which is to correct something that was incorrectly said or done on the field, like this case right here. There has to be some sort of recourse. The other thing that I want changed, and it doesn't really have much to do with this video, is, when teams feel like they bobbled the ball and didn't complete a catch, and then they hurry up and get to the line of scrimmage to snap the ball, is that not a giant red flag to everybody that maybe it wasn't a completion? So if you really care about competition and fairness, integrity, and deception, that should be the first damn rule that gets changed. You really care about teams deceiving others. That's calling upon the integrity of the game. No way, shape, or form should a team be able to go up and snap a ball because they feel like if they don't hurry up and do it, the ball's coming back. So figure it out, because if you really care about all this stuff, there are so many more things to talk about. And yes, the Lions do that stuff too. They'll hurry up and snap the ball because everybody else does. So until that rule's changed, it's going to continue. But to me, I feel like that's the biggest mark on the NFL, is that sometimes teams get away with huge plays, big time first downs that end up changing the game. And teams lose because that play should have never happened. Further, I'll say a few other quick things here. There was a giant pass interference, illegal contact, and holding on Amon-Ra St. Brown on that last drive, not called. Dak Prescott threw the ball about 60 yards in the air, out of bounds, nowhere near any receiver within 30, 40 yards. Should have been intentional grounding, not called. This whole Aiden Hutchinson tripping thing, I don't really see it. I mean, I see Aiden getting held all game, not called. I see Aiden off balance, whether you want to say he tried to trip somebody or not. He never made contact with anybody on that play outside of the guy he was engaged with. So there's probably 15, different penalties I could have called in this game that are clear penalties that would have gone for the Lions that were not called. But just about every single one that was called against the Lions, they called. Any opportunity they had, they took it to throw a flag on the Lions. So you want to talk about integrity and deception and gamesmanship? You need to fix this. And I know that nothing's going to get done now. It's too late. The Rule 17 that, allows the commissioner to have things replayed, changes the outcome of games, whatever, it's not going to be used. This is just how the NFL has done the Lions for a long time. So now it's time for the Lions to take the refs out of the game. And how do you do that? And I've said it many, 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 many times. You just keep putting points up on the board, and you keep points off the board for the other team. Play clean football. So if you can just do that, you won't have to worry about the refs. So that's my message to everybody out there. I'm done. I'm burying it unless something else crazy comes out. We're moving on. We're moving on to week 18. There's some other news that just popped a little bit ago about Isaiah Buggs, and I'm going to get into that here in just a moment and talk about it on another video. So that's all for today. Go One Pride, go Detroit Lions, F the Cowboys. We'll see y'all. Peace.